In this section, we're going to discuss the background to Muslims and Islam in the UK. We're going to consider where they came from, when they came, and explore some of the reasons why.
So, Junaid, when you use the words Muslims and Islam, tell me, what's the difference?
Great question. Islam is the religion. The followers of Islam are called Muslims. So when we talk about Muslims in the UK, they are the people who brought Islam to Britain.
Okay, so when did Muslims bring Islam into the UK? I believe actually that was in the 50s and 60s, wasn't it?
Actually, you might be surprised. References to Islam in the UK can be found as early as the 8th century. There was a king called Offa of Mercia. Now, you may never have heard of him. However, he was considered one of the greatest pre-Norman kings in British history, and he minted a coin. On it was an Arabic phrase which read, La ilaha illallah. This roughly translates as, there is only one God. This is a really important Islamic phrase, and the belief that there is only one God is so important that it actually forms the first pillar of Islam.
So, what you're saying, Junaid, is that references to Islam have existed in Britain for almost 1300 years.
Yep.
Okay, so then there was a big gap, but then Islam began to surface in the UK in the 50s and 60s?
Actually, if we take a look at the late 19th, early 20th century, there were some very famous British converts to Islam, two of which were William Quilliam and Marmaduke Pickthall. William Quilliam, who changed his name to Abdullah Quilliam, was born in Liverpool in 1856. He was a solicitor specialising in criminal law. He opened the first functioning mosque in Britain and published a weekly account of Muslims in Britain. His publications enjoyed a worldwide audience. Around the same time, another British convert to Islam, Muhammad Marmaduke Pickthall, a novelist esteemed by D.H. Lawrence, H.G. Wells and E.M. Forster, as well as being a journalist and headmaster, was noted for his English translation of the Quran.
So then it was the 50s and 60s?
Well, yes. Before the Second World War, there were very few black and Asian people in Britain. That said, during the war, a great number of black and Asian men from the colonies served in the British Armed Forces, and many of them laid down their lives for this country, and their contribution to the war effort should never be forgotten. In post-war Europe, there was a major labour shortage. European countries sought to revive their ailing economies by encouraging immigration. Germany welcomed Turks, whilst Great Britain saw an influx of migrants due to the 1948 British Nationality Act, which gave all 800 million people living in the Commonwealth the right to claim British citizenship. It gave them the right to come and work and live in Britain. So a much needed addition to the British workforce came from the Caribbean, India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. The government of the day didn't specifically invite Muslims into the UK, they simply needed to expand their workforce. Many of the countries from which the migrants came just happened to have high Muslim populations. From the mid-1950s until 1961, 30,000 people a year emigrated from the new Commonwealth to Great Britain.
My father-in-law originated from Pakistan, and he told me the story of his journey to this country, culminating in him getting off the ship in Southampton, and when he got off the ship there were brass bands playing, there was bunting flying, it was almost a carnival atmosphere. Those people were so welcome into this country at that time. Now, it wasn't until 1962 that any kind of restriction to immigration was imposed. So, in effect, Islam hasn't been imported into this country. Workers came to do the jobs that few Britons wanted to do. Many of them were Muslim, and with them, they brought their religion, Islam.
So in this section, we've confirmed that references to Islam in Great Britain date back as early as the 8th century.
In more recent times, many Muslims have positively contributed to the UK economy and to the UK society by moving to this country to take up work. And with them, they brought their religion. They brought Islam.